Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Of course, I think the same way. Rosa does too, right? Rosa? Sorry. Me too. I think that too. What's wrong, Rosa-san? You've been really quiet for a while now. Are you feeling sick? From the beginning, Rosa had never been one to cut in on the siblings' fights, but even so, she seemed unmotivated, and had said almost nothing during this night's conference. The whole time she had hung her head and appeared to be thinking of something else. You've been in a daze for a while now. Do you think you can protect the inheritance like that? You're also the mother of your child, so get a stronger hold on yourself. I'm sorry. Did you wake up really early in the morning? If you feel sick, you shouldn't overdo it. The beds in our guest rooms have been prepared. How about taking a rest? I will guide you. No, I'm fine. Thank you. What is it? Is there something you're worrying about? No, not really. Is that so? It feels like your mind has been elsewhere this whole time. I wonder if that has anything to do with what we've been talking about. At those words, everyone stared at Rosa together. As if in response, Rosa's shoulders quivered. Apparently, Kyrie's guess hadn't been wrong. Rosa couldn't deny it either. No, She swallowed whatever it was that she had been trying to say and went silent again. Of course, the other siblings also began to realize that something about her appearance was different than usual. What is it? You've been weird for a while now. Did you think of something? We all just swore to remain united, didn't we? Don't hold back, worrying by yourself. We said we'd talk. Rosa? Tell us. The men pressed her, one after the other, and Rosa confessed resignedly and nervously. The atmosphere made it seem as though she was confessing to some modest prank, which had inadvertently brought about a serious situation. No, this mistress of grandfather's is Beatrice. I was wondering if she's still alive. Huh? Isn't it obvious that she's alive? After all, she was able to send that letter to us. Whether she's in good health or not is a different story, though. The woman in that portrait must be getting up there in age by now. I'd say she's healthy. People who are crafty when it comes to money stay healthy, no matter how old they get. Her evil plan might even be the best rejuvenating agent. Wahahaha. She shouldn't be. Alive? Huh? What did you just say? Beatrice is dead. I killed her. What did you say? What do you mean, Rosa? But it wasn't really me who killed her, though I did bring her to a place like that. No, I did kill her after all. I tried to make myself believe it was a dream, but it wasn't really a dream, was it? Which makes this a letter from Beatrice's ghost? Or daughter, I don't know. Ooh, It was so sudden that everyone was lost for words. Rosa kept on talking, unable to stop, holding her head as if her hair flew all about. Calm yourself, Rosa-san. I know this is a serious moment, but I'm staring at her boobs. I have absolutely no clue what's going on. Already dead? What do you mean? I think it means two things. First, its literal meaning, and second, it backs up our earlier guess, which means Rosa has met with Beatrice, right? I'd never heard Rosa mention anything like this. Rosa, when was it? When could you possibly have met Beatrice? Long ago. Long ago. We just moved over to the island and I was still young. It wasn't my fault. It's not like I killed her. Wah. Calm down. Nobody's blaming you for anything, right? First, drink some water. Okay, that's actually a good idea. Where did I... It's over here. Remember to stay hydrated, guys. Bring the pitcher, please. Yes. Here you go, Rosa-san. Please, calm yourself. Until Rosa was able to calm her ragged breathing, no one was able to speak a word. Do 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 do. Banana phone. Doop 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 doop. Bring 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 bring. Banana phone. Cellular, modular, interactular. Bananula phone. Don't need quarters, don't need dimes to have a real good time. Beatrice, I have been calling to you for some time now. Did you not hear me? Moo, were you? My apologies. I was lost in thought. Forgive me. The weather is pleasant. Yes, I can understand how the weather has stolen your heart. Will you have your black tea here? Who am I? I will bring some tea now. Does she have amnesia? Wait here for a while. Forget about the tea. Talk with me. Very well. Kenzo had used the excuse of getting black tea to try and interrupt the conversation for the time being, but his attempt had been very transparent. I sat in a garden chair and beckoned Kenzo to do the same. Kenzo sat down heavily, exaggerating his age. For a while, we sat and appreciated the silence. Who am I? Until today, no one has answered this question. For some reason, everyone averts their gaze and evades me. I have known you for a long time. I think of you as my best friend, even as a father. That is why I want so much for you to tell me. You should know who I am. Why are you worried about something like that? You are Beatrice, the master of this mansion. Is that not so? What more could you want to know? I do not know. Yeah, I don't know what happened. This is a bit of a curveball. What's this? Don't you even understand what it is you want to know? How mysterious. In one's youth, there are times one wants to play in the maze of thought that has no exit. Perhaps that's what your worries are? Kenzo laughed as though it was a trivial matter. However, I couldn't help but feel that this behavior was another attempt to force me to stop any further questioning. Humph. So you won't tell me after all. There is nothing to tell. You are Beatrice. Isn't that more than enough? No, that's not it. What I wish to know is not my name. I want to know who I am. Who am I? What am I? How long have I been here? And how long will I have to continue my days here? I really should bring some black tea. Don't you think it's a waste of all this fine weather? Okay, does she have Alzheimer's? I mean, I've asked the question, can ghosts have autism? Can witches have Alzheimer's disease? What's this all about? It looks like it's probably the story of your past, right? Something like that. To think I would go this far back. Looks like you had some pretty deep worries even then, wondering who you were. That is to be expected. At the time, I was unable to understand who I was or why I was alive. Well, in puberty, everyone's captured by those philosophical worries at least once, wondering what the meaning there is in their life. Doesn't this just prove you had a charming period like that at one point? I'd been in that mansion since the time of my birth, and I lived only inside the mansion. Of course, I went out into the garden, but the area around the mansion was surrounded by a very tall fence. I was unable to leave through it, and I was told severely that I mustn't leave. I could walk freely throughout the mansion and the garden. Okay, are you actually from 1,000 years ago, and that blue-haired woman, Beatrice, who you took a name from and called a teacher, actually was a thing, and you were royalty in the past? Or you were having a delusion because you were in isolation and you were like the mistress's child and you're just sort of raised under very questionable circumstances? I don't know what's happening. I'll be the first to admit I'm very confused. I could walk freely throughout the mansion and the garden, but outside of that, not once was my desire to take just one step outside of my own accord granted. What do you mean by that? Are you trying to say that as far back as you can remember you were always a bird in a cage? That's what I thought at the time. After all, as soon as I became aware, I was living like that. I didn't even think to question it. Who in the world are you? That's it. That is what I also hope to know. Heh. I'm sure you'll say something like, I wasn't a human, I was a witch, right? No, that's not true. That isn't true yet. Or should I say, that was once the case. I was constructed by Kenzo, a human, built by a human. No, perhaps I should call it a cage made of flesh. So did he So you're a 1,000-year-old witch that can't really exist physically anymore, and he just sort of, made a golem. Why am I imagining, like Like, yeah, you know, like these Optimus robots and all those new robots, like androids they're coming out with. I have a question. If a human body can get possessed by demons, then can a robot be possessed? What about dolls? What about AI? Can ghosts possess an AI? Can robots have split personalities? Can ghosts have mental health problems? What the hell? This is getting weird. You probably won't believe it anyway. But listen first. I was a mighty witch who'd lived for 1,000 years, but at one point I was summoned by Kinzo, and by that hidden art I was bound as his prisoner for eternity. Never heard that before. How would he even know how to do that? Also, weren't you the one who said earlier in the game that when you were summoned, you chose to obey his thing out of boredom? Never heard that before. From what we hear, you were summoned by Grandfather, made something like a devil's contract with him, and gave him the gold. Indeed, that is correct. Then I was supposed to vanish until the contract was complete. But, well, popular women have it rough. By some turn of events, Kinzo fell in love with me. Grandfather's nearsightedness must have gotten pretty bad. With astigmatism, too, to fall in love with you of all things. Humph. Well, to me, there could be nothing more bothersome. However, the power of humans is a frightening thing. He displayed some fearsome power and rooted me to this place. But why did you then have dementia and amnesia? He said I wouldn't be freed until I nodded my head in agreement. Such an overbearing man. Isn't that awesome? Everyone knew Grandfather was obsessed with the occult, but who would have guessed he had the power to root down the great witch Beatrice? Heh, ridiculous. Who'd believe such a weird story? As I thought, you don't believe. All I believe is the fact that you lived in this hidden mansion in the middle of the forest. You are the 19th person on Rokkenjima, right? Indeed. Just as you imagine, this is deep within the forest of Rokkenjima, a hidden mansion not to be found from the outside world, which was probably eventually demolished. Its name is Kuwadorian, Nine Birds Retreat. Come to think of it, I heard the guest's house real name was Torarian Visitor's Retreat. I see, the naming sense is similar. So you were Grandfather's mistress who lived here in secret. Isn't that right? Mistress isn't the right way to say it. You should probably call it Kinzo's unrequited love. I spoke of it just now, correct? He fell in love with me of his own accord. He then courted me, but I rejected him. Then I was shut up in this hidden mansion. No, that's not quite right. It would be more correct to say that I was shut up in this body. I've got no idea what you said at the end there. You will just make fun of it and refuse to listen right now. I'm listening. I'm just telling you that, one, I am actively listening to what you are saying, but also that I need more details because I am very confused. But I'm trying. After all, you say you don't believe in witches or magic. I'll at least listen to it. If you have no ears to hear what I tell you, saying it would be the pinnacle of foolishness. Well, no, I'll still listen to what you have to say. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I don't understand and I'm not listening. I still understand and I'm still listening. I just don't agree. And I might choose to interpret things a certain way, like maybe you're having psychological problems. Again, I don't know how we explain how we're having this conversation, or why we're time looping, or there's a hyperbolic time chamber, or why Mr. Popo is over there. Popo! Mr. Popo, what are you... Where did you send them? I can tell you where they're not. Safe. I'll decide whether I believe or not. After all, if I don't ask, the story won't continue. Tell me. Let's hear this story from your past. Very well. I refused Kenzo when he courted me, but he was not a man to lose heart at something like that. He wanted to make me nod my head in agreement no matter what. He shut me up in this mansion and spent an eternity trying to win my heart. Talk about overbearing. Guess no one likes obstinate men, huh? Cackle. Regardless of whether I responded to his courting or not, having a man so desperate for me, well, as a woman, it wasn't so unpleasant. However, I never accepted his proposal. I tried to find some way to break through his guard, but that barrier was firm and I couldn't crack it. And then, after trying to resist in various ways, I eventually reached the conclusion that to escape from Kenzo's barrier, I would have to throw away this body of flesh. The physical body is a vessel with many restrictions for a magical user. Throw away your body of flesh? What does that mean? Okay, I was kind of making a joke when I said Kenzo was having, just some woman chained up at some point, but that's not exactly too far from the truth now, is it? I mean, chains of soft, like, something like an out-of-body experience? Well, if you want to think of it that way. However, I am no spirit. Even though I am a witch, in the beginning I was born with a human's body of flesh. So for me, throwing away that physical body, while it didn't mean the same thing as death, it did require a similar level of resolve. So in other words, you decided that you couldn't be released except by suicide, is that it? It wasn't suicide. It was nothing more than throwing away my body of flesh. Of course, becoming nothing more than a soul is a precarious situation. When the soul leaves its body of flesh, it is constantly exposed to strong winds and the sun. It was not easy for me to maintain myself and avoid being scattered by them. It was a final measure that I wanted to avoid if I could. So we're talking like solar radiation? I mean, technically, increased solar radiation from like Aurora Borealis and stuff can kill birds and flying insects. However, there's no other way to break through Kenzo's barrier. Anyway, I am an unfettered person. I couldn't stand be kept in a cage until Kenzo's life was over. I couldn't see the stuff Beato kept going on about throwing their body of flesh, as anything more than suicide. Grandfather persistently courted her, and to escape from that, she chose her own death. So you're saying you committed suicide. What are you talking about? Isn't that you sitting carefree there in a garden chair? That's right. That is the new cage I was given by Kenzo. Cage? You mean this mansion? No. I mean my body relaxing in the garden chair over there. Even though I was so desperate to escape that I became naught but a soul, Kenzo still had no intention of letting me go. Oh, he was a fearsome person. So, let me get this straight. That's why you have amnesia. You killed yourself, and that he immediately just sort of captured your soul and put it into just a large doll. And we're viewing you as an actual person with flesh due to psychological limitations of your human mind. Normally, when the object of one's unrequited love shows that she is willing to die, it should be enough to bring that person to their senses even if their love has lasted 100 years. Perhaps that's why even he managed to become a sorcerer of sorts. Don't try to confuse me with that incomprehensible witch girl talk. What exactly are you trying to say? That Kenzo didn't let me escape even after I became a soul. Human emotions are terrifying. To think he would be able to exhibit such power. Tying down a dead soul is not something that can be accomplished easily, not even for a magician who specializes in such matters. Because I knew this, Kenzo's fearful magical power shocked me for the first time. Then Kenzo seized my soul and brought me back. However, a cage to hold a seized soul cannot be made from iron or lead. Only one thing remained. What? You aren't going to say it was a magical cage or something, are you? Oh my god, no. Was it his actual wife? Did he, like lobotomize his actual wife and then put your soul into her corpse? Wrong. It's that body of flesh over there, just like yours or mine. Only a cage made of flesh and blood can tie a soul down to this world. Kenzo shut my soul up in a cage of flesh built to be exactly like me. So, to sum up, it's like this. Grandfather obstinately courted you, you started to hate it, and you committed suicide. But you weren't clever enough to finish the job? Damn, you really took a roundabout way to say something like that. No, that's wrong. My soul was shut up in the seed of a homunculus, and I was born out of the test tube. Ha! But that's crazy. That isn't even possible, right? I mean, Elon Musk has been trying to make cat girls for a while. We'll get there eventually. Also, Futanari androids. You guys remember Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z? Kenzo accomplished even the miracle of creating life, and simply to shut my soul up in that cage. That he would show such magical power simply because of his own love. A thoroughly terrifying person. It's already gotten pretty ridiculous. Say whatever you want. I won't believe any... Wait a minute. I won't believe anything. Wait a minute. I know I've made a shadow clone jutsu from like Naruto, but now this is making me imagine, you know, like Kenzo is in the place of Gendo from Evangelion, and you know, that tank full of all the clone bodies of Rei Ayanami. I won't believe anything. Just do what you like. Moo. What's with this unpleasant attitude? Heh. In the beginning, I showed a little interest, thinking that there might be some huge hint hidden here. But the more I ask, the weirder the story starts to get. I get the feeling that even though this is supposed to be a game about denying witches, I am suddenly being forced to just swallow this story about witches. Sorry, but I don't feel like listening to this anymore. Just keep rambling on to yourself for as much as you want. I'll be over here picking my earwax or something. Humph. I did like the expression she made before this. When I started acting cold, Beato seemed unusually discouraged. Of course, her expression was still shameless, but in that really easy-to-understand expression of hers, I had the feeling I was able to catch a glimpse of loneliness at my failure to find the story of her past interesting. For some reason, that subtle reaction made her seem pitiful. So even though I kept my careless attitude, I decided to cover for her slightly. Damn it, even though she's an irritating witch, I'm still weak against her because her chromosomes are XX. Well, I've got absolutely no desire to believe you, but keep going. Let's have a bit of a story instead of a tea snack. So you treat the story of my past little more than a snack. Do you expect me to just casually tell you when you insult me like that? After I made fun of her, Beato reacted a little sensitively. It looked like, even though making fun of people was her specialty, she was horrible at being made fun of by others. Just then, my black teacup suddenly made a sound surprising me. Hello? Milady's soul was seized and breathed into a cage of new life. In other words, Milady received life as a human once more. Before I realized it, the demon butler had taken my cup and was adding more black tea to it. Well, thank you. Renove. Enough of that. This person just said it was too ridiculous to be worth listening to. Well, he's too ridiculous to be worth talking to. I'm baking some new cookies right now. Until they're ready, I thought you might find the story of Milady's past to be the perfect substitute for a snack. Poo-coo-coo. Didn't I say that's enough talking about me? Okay, It's not like he even said the joke in mean-spiritedness. He was actually just being playful. Which is a lot more than you deserve, given... Yes, I understand there's some... But here's the thing. What was your 1,000 years like before the Kinzo thing? And even then. Back, I made a comment about magic, like, damaging her mind. I'm pretty sure all this other stuff going on, you know, the suicide and the cloning, probably caused some psychological issues. Such unpleasant people, a lot of you. I'm leaving. Renaud, serve our food and then go. No pointless chit-chat with Battler. Certainly, I will make an effort. Beato's short temper, peculiar to women, which I didn't really understand, took hold of her. She turned her body into gold butterflies, scattered, and disappeared. After that, only Renaud and the scent of the black tea were left. But here's the thing, we won't really have a choice. Like, okay, one, listening to it does go against our objective in the game. But let's be clear, even if we listened and were completely polite, she would find that boring. So literally nothing we do could be a good, like, nothing has a reaction of her not being upset. After that, only Renaud and the scent of the black tea were left. I feel kind of bad, like I pissed her off or something. As long as you're aware of it yourself, I need say nothing more. Well, why should I care if I piss her off when I know nothing I do or say would result in not pissing her off? There's nothing I could say, there's nothing, even nothing. Even silence would have still pissed her off. There's no options. There's nothing I could have said or done that wouldn't have resulted in her being angry. Wait a sec. Weren't you the one who struck the finishing blow? Poo-coo-coo. My, what could you mean by that? How would you like some sugar and milk? Just milk will be fine. And some tea snacks would be nice too. Well, it will be a bit longer before the cookies are ready. Didn't you say we've already got something to use in place of a snack? Certainly. If you will listen quietly, I will continue the story. She said something about an homunculus. I know a bit about that. It's that thing, right? A manufactured human created with alchemy or something. Yes. Why do you look perturbed? Like, why does this man look like it's emotionally uncomfortable for him to discuss Full Metal Alchemist? Milady's soul was shut up in a homunculus, and she was revived in this world, receiving life again as a baby. However, because she was a baby, any professions of love on Kenzo's part would have been quite useless, because you aren't saying that grandfather shut that baby up in this hidden mansion until it grew to reach the same age she'd been. Okay, that's kind of creepy. Also, how did he care for I guess if he can grow a person test tube, he can, I don't know, have some cows for milk or something? I don't know. This is weird. It's disturbing. Correct. That is what I am saying. However, while her soul was the same, a human spirit is strongly influenced by its container. Milady lost all her memories of the past and grew up as a very normal human girl. And you're saying that's the Beato sitting in the garden chair. Yes, that is correct. It grew to be completely identical. However, it did not possess her power as a witch. Milady was completely human. Why is the background picture looking at you angrily? Why is the VHS tape we're watching becoming sentient? Beata, who was sitting in the garden chair looking up at the sky, voiced that same question again. She asked who she was. The meaning of those words was finally starting to click. She couldn't understand why she was living here all locked up. Grandfather had seized Beatrice's soul, shut up in a body of flesh, and then shut that up in a hidden mansion. However, since she had lived here since the time of her birth, she couldn't even understand who she was, or why she lived shut up in there. But wait. Who would take such a stupid story seriously? Why don't I change my interpretation? In other words, couldn't it be something like this? He had a child with his mistress Beatrice. And then she died while the child was still a baby. And then he raised the daughter, who then would grow up to look like his mistress, to be named after the mistress. So was the blue-haired woman we saw that she was speaking to, was that the ghost of her mom? This is weird. Like, don't get me wrong, Beatrice is still a bitch. But Kenzo is... he's not a nice person. I feel like he's made a few ethical mistakes in life. I feel like he's reminding me of a certain person from the Full Metal Alchemist series, who, Ed did kind of beat the shit out of at one point. He's in both versions of the anime, and it's actually usually considered like the saddest part of the anime. Grandfather met Beatrice. He then fell in love with her and courted her, but she didn't accept him. Then he flew into a rage and shut her up inside this hidden mansion. Beatrice tried to escape, but no matter what she did, she couldn't succeed. So she finally chose her own death. And then, no. Maybe there was a girl who looked just like Beatrice, no, a baby. Grandfather raised this child with care, but maybe he didn't view the child as his daughter. The soul was once again shut up in a cage of flesh. Those words probably meant that he didn't view this kid as her child, but as her reincarnation. Maybe that's what it meant. If you interpret it that way, even a story this weird might make a little sense. No. This might be some bullshit Beato cooked up to confuse me. As if I could accept any of this. I mean, technically none of that involves magic. Basically heck, even if the original Beatrice didn't, respond to his love at that point, he just sort of kidnapped her and forced himself on her. And then she tried to kill herself, didn't quite succeed. And then the coma woman died during childbirth. And then he raised the baby at the same name as the hostage woman under really weird circumstances. I feel like Kenzo should be in prison. In the first one, Kudawarian, was it? There's no proof whatsoever that hidden mansion actually existed. Couldn't this be some other fabricated on the spot? A hidden mansion called Kudawara does exist in the forest of Rakanjima. That is the place we were just talking about. Huh? Red? Renault used the red to say that Kudawara actually existed. Did that mean the same thing as red Beato used? I may not look it, but I am a demon. Please keep this a secret from my lady, yes? Sure. Beato, who knew I would try to trip her up, had grown extremely cautious when using red. To think that Renov could also use the red. However, it was the red of a crafty man. I didn't know how far I could accept it. But anyway, I might be able to get some kind of hint out of it. So that Beato relaxing in the garden of Kudawarian, and that conversation she had with grandfather were the truth. Yes, it is the truth. In the past, the pair actually had a conversation like this in that place. So thanks a lot. I'll ask for more red. You said she was born from a homunculus, but does that kind of unscientific magical thing actually exist? I am unable to answer that question. After all, doing so would cause a stalemate. A stalemate? What does that mean? It's a chess term referring to a state in which, similar to perpetual check, any further progress in a game becomes impossible. This would be the opposite of an endless repetition of moves, because all moves would disappear and it would bring about a kind of deadlock. In chess, this would lead to a draw, just as a perpetual check would. However, there can be no draws in the game between you and my lady. Therefore, I am unable to answer a question that would bring about a stalemate. You obviously want to confuse me by saying incomprehensible stuff, but simply put, you're trying to dodge the question because you can't use the red to say that something magical like a homunculus exists, right? At this point, I feel like they're using the word homunculus as a euphemism, rather than a scientific term. If I were to say in the red that a witch exists, what would you do, Battler-sama? Moo. Whether or not I believe that is what our whole fight's about, right? If I was told that point blank, it'd be game over. If I said which exists in red, you would have no room for argument. However, since the reason would never have been made clear to you, Battler-sama, you probably wouldn't accept it. However, after being told that in red, you would have no room for argument and would not have been shown any proof. In that situation, even though you wouldn't be able to admit defeat, you would have no way to make a counter-argument, and it would become a deadlock. Even though checkmate would not have been reached, there would be no existing moves left. Since you would not be able to play your next hand, it would never become Milady's turn, and the game would stop there for all eternity. As a result, Milady would be unable to force you to submit. That would be a deadlock situation. In order to avoid that, I am unable to answer the question of this nature in red. So to say it quickly, you're saying point-blank questions are prohibited. Well, that's true, I guess. If I were told a witch exists, I'd have to give up from the start. Same way if he said a homunculus exists. I mean, on one hand, everything could be subjective, too. Like, if he says homunculus exists in red, then it's the same as saying witches exist. If he says they don't exist in red, then it says witches don't exist. But also, even if he says they do exist, that homunculus exists, it could be using, like, a homunculus exists in a euphemistic term. That technically it exists, but it'd be kind of like you see a really big fish in a pond. You're like, wow, that's a whale. I mean, it's a whale of a fish. I mean, technically it's true. It's technically a whale, but it's also not technically a whale. Everyone's like, that's a terrible argument. Yes, it is, but it gets my point across. I am pleased that you understand. I believe we might be able to work together if you ask your questions in a different form. Can you help me with that line Beatrice dodged when I told her to repeat it about the number of people on this island? If my lady held back on repeating it, then of course I cannot respond. As my lady's furniture, I am unable to be too forward. Renaud made an exaggerated gesture, trying to act like a loyal retainer. This guy's so shameless. Heh. Just when I thought you might actually be useful. I'll give up on that and search for a different question. That's right. I was forgetting to check something important. This is a story about Beato's memories, right? When did it happen? It couldn't be happening right now, right? Correct. This is the world of 1967. The world of 19 years previous. Let's try rearranging the story again. I wonder if it could be something like this. Grandfather fell in unrequited love with a person called Beatrice. Then he confined her in this hidden mansion and continued to court her, but she was stubborn and didn't give in. Eventually, she grew pessimistic about being able to escape from here, and probably committed suicide. And then, her soul was put in a homunculus, and... No, if I accept that, it's the same as accepting the witch. No? I mean, at this point, we're like... We're battling semantics now. Like, well, how do you define witch? I mean, here's the thing. There's a difference between saying she's a 1,000-year-old witch with magical superpowers, as opposed to she's a clone grown in a scientific test tube. I mean, technically, we're still arguing science, so that's not saying witches exist. You can say homunculuses exist, and witches don't necessarily have to exist. Now, it does make it more likely that witches could exist, but it's kind of like saying, what about automobiles or we landed on the moon? Those are pretty incredible scientific feats. So any sufficiently advanced science would be magic. So it could just be the homunculus here in this situation is just really, really advanced science. So it could just be a cloning. Or Kenzo is keeping women locked up in the basement and using them to breed, and then raising the children under very psychotic circumstances that honestly every point of this, like every part of this story is extremely abusive. Like ignoring the stuff that's happening with the older Beatrice, and then just the stuff with the baby, like I feel like that's a huge problem in so many ways. But yeah, it could just be, we can accept that as either massive scientific advancement, or Kenzo is like really, really fucked in the head. I can interpret that part like this. She probably had a posthumous daughter. So she tried to kill herself, failed, but was pregnant. Grandfather must have believed that her soul had been placed in a new physical body, and might have thought the child was the reincarnation of Beatrice. That means at least 19 years ago, Beato existed on this island as the 19th person. Hello? I'm starting to get confused. Either way, we can't do more than speculate. The only thing we can say for sure is, in red, is that in 1967, in a hidden mansion in Rakajima, Beatrice existed as a human. That's all. That is correct. In 1967, in a hidden mansion on Rakajima, Beatrice Sama existed as a human. Oh, thank you. That really helps. Congratulations. With this, you have made clear the existence of the piece known as the 19th person. A 19th human for you to blame, just as you longed for. Again, there's also the issue of if there's a 19th, but of course, Rosa, after all, Beatrice said Rosa was going to be able to explain why in a moment. A sacrificial sheep on which you can shift the blame of any crime. How amusing that it happens to be my lady. Pooh, coo, coo, coo. Renov laughed indiscreetly. Somehow, I didn't like how he put that, so I didn't feel like laughing along with him. That's right. There's that thing Aunt Rosa said. Beatrice is dead? I killed her? What did that mean? As for that, it may be faster to see the actual circumstances rather than listen to me tell you. Let us advance the clock a little more. Renove pulled a stylish pocket watch from his pocket and touched the watch stem. As soon as he did, I saw gold butterflies gather behind his back and take the form of a person. Was it Beato? I quickly realized that it was someone else. Hello? It was her. The oldest sister of the 7 Stakes, who loved tormenting me more than her 3 meals a day. There's no way she's having 3 meals a day, as skinny as she's staying. More like 1 meal a day. Unless you're really burning that many calories repeatedly murdering Battler. If I don't consider myself lucky to see that sexy ass, I won't be able to keep up with their torture game. Renov-sama, so you're still here. This is an urgent call from Beatrice-sama. My. What kind of urgent business could it be? It seems my chat with Battler-sama has ran a tad long. Well then, Battler-sama, if you will excuse me, please continue to enjoy your game with milady. Yeah, I'll enjoy it the best I can, because my conversations go a lot more smoothly when they're with you as opposed to her, and you're more gracious with the red too. Come and talk again any time you like. We were supposed to keep that a secret. I know he said not to tell milady, but we did kind of say it in front of the other person. Battler-sama, despite how I look, I am milady's furniture. I can do nothing that milady does not desire. What I said in red was something that normally should have come from milady's mouth. I did nothing more than announce the red truth in milady's place as she sulked. So, she really was sulking then. Hee. Poo-coo-coo. Seeing me and Renova incomprehensibly hitting it off, that Steak-Chan cocked her head curiously. Renova-sama, we are keeping Beatrice-sama waiting. Let us hurry. Yes, I shall go immediately. How can we keep people waiting if we can pause time? Well, Battler-sama, I will see you later. It appears that we have finally started getting along. As I thought, I have the feeling we'll manage to become good friends. Sure, if you mean partners at gossiping behind Beato's back. Renove-sama, yes, if you will excuse me. Maybe she didn't like seeing him act so friendly with me, or maybe she had been told to hurry. When the Steak-Chan let out a thunderous cry, Renove laughed frivolously and disappeared as if running away. Humph. Why am I, the oldest sister of the 7 stakes of purgatory, being summoned for menial tasks like this, even though Beato-sama could have told one of the younger sisters who look like they've got nothing better to do. Sheesh. Why so grumpy, Nei-chan? If you're hungry, eat a cookie or something. Why don't I give you the last one? How thoughtful. Then shall I take one? What are the cookies? What are the cookies made out of? What are the cookies made out of? I casually pushed the snack plate with the last remaining cookie over to her. Thank you. Did you stab me? As though coming as a period at the end of the sentence, a sharp sound pierced the table. The nails on 3 of her fingers extended, grew sharp, and pierced the space between my fingers on the hand that was pushing the plate, missing them by a hair's breadth. It had happened in an instant, so for a while, I didn't even realize that her fingernails had grown. The tips of those sharp nails were like blades, with a red manicure. The spaces between the bases of my fingers hurt sharply. Okay, so she didn't miss, if she still hurt me. Those razor-like blades had been plunged into the table at a hair's breadth away from the back of my hand and my fingers. Because of those 3 blades, I was unable even to let my careless right hand tremble, and by now all I could do was let a bead of cold sweat drip down. Whoa, Nei-chan, isn't it about time to cut your nails? Lucifer. That is my glorious name. The honored furniture who serves Beatrice-sama, and the oldest sister of the 7 stakes of purgatory. I'm not like my disgraceful younger sisters. If you don't show proper respect, you will regret it. And why would I regret it exactly? Can't really think of a reason. Stupid kid. Do you really want to play with me that much? Was it that unforgettable? I'll thrust my stake deep, deep into you, and let you enjoy being gouged to the fullest, okay? Damn it. Someday I'll have you down on the floor and say the same thing. Oh, really? Wow, I can't wait. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Well, that looked like it hurt. Beatrice, I can't play the game anymore. I'm crippled. Please unstab me. I am too stabbed to keep playing chess. Rosa eventually regained her calm. The men wanted to hurry her into talking faster, but Kairi intervened. If something like that really happened, then it would have been a terrible experience that Rosa wouldn't want to remember. After taking several deep breaths with her hand over her chest, it seemed that she had more or less resolved herself to talk. How old was I then? I wonder.